welcome back to Storytime with David Booker. Today is going to be a little different. I want to introduce the story that I'm going to read today. We're supposed to do Time is Once More, fourth book in the Time is series. However, we're going to read a book or a story called Patches. It's from I blend to my shorts. Just take a little break between these series. But I kind of want to introduce why this story is special. Years ago in a very small town, my grandfather had a bookstore. And my mom ran it after he was unable to run it for a while. And then I spent a lot of my spare time there as well. And that bookstore was very special to me. And it became even more special one very rainy night when, and you'll hear about it in the story, when there was a huge thunderstorm out there. I mean, it was bad. And there was a sound in the, from somewhere outside, and opened the back door, and there was this scrawny little pregnant cat. And so, my mom had Eric go and take care of it, get us some food and stuff like that in the pouring rain. But that cat stayed with us after the bookstore closed and the rest of its life. So it now became the bookstore cat, but it became our cat. And probably one of the oddest cats I've ever known. If you've ever had a cat, they all have a weird personality. But this cat must have been raised by kids that lived in the dorm at the university nearby, because it liked olives, it liked egg rolls, it liked potato chips. I mean, it's a really unusual cat. So let's see. As I said, it's in a glimpse of my shorts, which is this book right here. And it's a good thing I put an index in these things. And there's a lot of shorts in here. Here we go. It is in this one, isn't it? Patches the Bookstore Cat, 179. Yes. I'll have to read about Sam, who became my dog. We picked him up at the shelter pretty much in the nick of time. So, okay, Patches the Bookstore Cat. So this is a children's story. So if you have children, please bring them around and let them hear this. This is kind of a nice little story. Hello, I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine. Her name is Patches, and she lives in a bookstore. Oh, she's also a cat. If we walk into the bookstore, we will see many shelves of books, stacks of National Geographics piled on the floor, rows of paperbacks, and in the back, a desk. Behind the desk is Carol, she owns the books and runs the bookstore. And behind it, Eric is sitting on a green stuffed comfortable chair coloring. Eric is 8 and has been helping his mother for a long time now. Now look to your right. On top of the desk. Do you see her? A nice cat. A cat whose coat has many colors. A cat with dignity. And a welcoming purr. This is Patches. She is very glad to meet you. The bookstore didn't always have a cat. This is a story about how Patches came to live at the bookstore and how she became the bookstore cat. That is the story I want to tell you. Patches the bookstore. Picture the bookstore on a rainy afternoon. All day the clouds had been joining with each other and blocking out the sky. They were dark and angry clouds and had been grumbling since early in the morning. Now they were tossing lightning and firing their cannons. As the sky grew first green and then darkened as if the clouds had thrown a thick blanket over the town, they decided that the time was right to let down the water, and let it down they did. They threw it down by the bucket load, and clouds have very large buckets. It rained so hard that nobody went out into the street, and so nobody came into the bookstore almost all day. Eric colored page after page of paper and then folded them into paper airplanes and flew them into the bookstore. Carol sat and read or walked to the big window at the front and watched the clouds gather and open and to let loose the rain. Eric sat up in his chair and stopped coloring. He had heard something. Something soft and quiet that could just barely be heard mixed in with the rain and thunder. It was a small cry that came from somewhere outside and out back of the store. He told his mother, and she listened and heard it too. She carefully undid the lock on the back door and slowly opened it so as not to scare whatever was behind it. There on the ground and dripping wet was a very sad cat. Lo left the door open and waited. The cat looked up at Carol and then at Eric. They didn't move, but just waited. The cat decided that it was silly to sit out in the cold rain when the bookstore was warm, dry, and very nice. It walked inside and jumped into the chair Eric had been sitting in. It shook itself dryer and lay down. I need some tea. Carol found a box and put a warm blanket into it. She sent Eric out into the rain and to the store down the street with a list of things the cat might need. Food, of course, a cat box and litter, and maybe some treats. Eric grumbled about going out into the rain. Well, you would too, I bet. But he did go and got everything on the list. When he came back, he was given some money to go to the ice cream store on the corner for a brownie hot fudge sundae. Sitting back into his chair and eating his sundae, he watched the cat eat, stretch, and wander around the store. Are we going to keep her? He asked. His mom looked at the cat and she answered, well, she is going to have kittens soon, so I guess we'll have to stay. If the cat was staying, she would have to have her name. Now this would need very careful thought. A cat gets very offended if they are given a name they don't like. Many names were suggested to the cat. Whiskers, Miss Briss, Pussy Permew, lots of others, all of which the cat turned down. Carol looked carefully at the cat and said, Eric, I don't know what to call her. She's covered in all these multicolored patches. At the word patches, the cat looked up and meowed happily. She had chosen her name, and from then on, she was called Patches. Now, no two cats are alike and all act differently, and it didn't take long for Carol and Eric to see just how different Patches was from other cats. For instance, even though she would eat cat food, it wasn't her favorite thing to eat. She preferred potato chips or maybe an egg roll or even pizza. She loved olive juice and could even roll in it if she could. Along with the cat, the bookstore also had mice. But these mice were, again, different from other mice. They lived under a table in a small hole in the wall. They lived on potato chips and small biscuits. They were allowed to live there because they never ate the books and stayed in their hole most of the time. Once in a while, one would climb onto the desk and clamber into the chips, grab one, and bring it down into their hole in the wall. Lucky for the mice, Patches realized that quite quickly that these mice were friends and were not to be eaten. Every morning after Patches became part of the bookstore, she would greet Carol when she opened up in the morning. She would have breakfast, then sit at the front behind the huge window. Sometimes she would sleep, but when customers came in, she always greeted them and let them pet her and make a fuss over her. She was always either in the window or on the desk. Eventually, the time came and Patches had her kittens. She had 6 of them, and all different colors. One was all black, one tortoiseshell color, one brown, one white and brown, one black and white, and one with all the colors her mom had. This last one also had the puffiest tail you could ever see. The kittens were small and stayed near their mother in the beginning, but kittens grow quickly and were no longer content to sit at their mother's side. They wanted to explore. After they started wandering, you never knew where you might find a kitten. One might be in the window, one on the desk, one underfoot, and one over your head. You might pull out a book and see two shiny eyes looking out at you. You might sit in the leather chair in front of the desk for a chat or to read a new book you found, and soon you would feel a small animal climbing your pants to sit in your lap and help you read. Bop, bop, bop. Carol and her family quickly became fond of one of the kittens. I think you already guessed which one. It was the one with the fluffy tail, and they named her Scamper. Patches and Scamper stayed at the bookstore, and all the others found new homes. For a while, Patches and Scamper made everyone who came into the bookstore feel welcomed. They would rub against them and purr and purr and purr, saying, "Welcome to our store." Or they'd sit on your lap, or they would lay on the desk and allow you to pet them. They made the bookstore a wonderful place to work at and come to. Sometime much later, the bookstore closed. The books were packed off to shelves and placed into many boxes. All the shelves were moved to Carol's home and the books taken up to the attic or placed on the shelves all around the house. But what about Patches and Scamper, I hear you cry? Well, they came home with Carol too. They lived in a house now and spent all day in the windowsill or climbing the bookshelves or sitting in someone's lap. They missed the bookstore just like everyone who lived there, but they enjoyed being in a home, nice, cozy, and part of a family now. One day, Patches the Scamper made a new friend. He was a squirrel named Blackjaw, who came into the house every day for breakfast. But I'll tell you more about him in my next story. And I just realized, I'm looking through the back pages, I never told the story of the squirrel. If we got a few minutes, let's do it now. I don't need books. This is for a long time ago, when I was very young. I worked at a butcher shop. I made sausages and ground the meat and did all sorts of things like get the pigs roasted and stuff. And I loved it. I loved it there. And they had a front area where they sold buns and things like that for the deli to serve, meat, and you can make sandwiches and stuff like that. Well, they also had this New York cheesecake, and I don't know if you know what a New York cheesecake, but think of a huge cheesecake that's about that thick. And you can't eat more than about a slice that thick. Well, this thing had been sitting in there for about a week. And they were like, "Well, we can't sell any more of it. It's getting old." So they asked me if I wanted it. I forget how much I paid for it. I think it was like 10, 15 bucks. I was like, hell yeah. So I put it on my bike and rode it home and got it home. We ate a little bit of it, but nowhere near the rest of it. And one day my mom said, "Well, why don't you put it outside?" Now, Blackjaw was a squirrel that used to visit and hang out with us at breakfast, and he'd knock on the window and we'd bring him out crackers with peanut butter and stuff like that. Well, Blackjaw was the first one when I put the cheesecake out there to see it, taste it, realize this was something pretty damn good. I don't know what kind of communication system squirrels have, but it's a good one, because next thing you know, you can see grass, because every squirrel in the area had come by and was eating that cheesecake, and they got bloated. I mean, you saw squirrels out there with a stomach out to here, and they could barely move their little feet. Mom and I were sitting out there looking at all these puffed up squirrels and thinking, you know what? we said Scamper and Patches out. We don't have to feed them for months. But it was neat. Blackjaw stayed with us for quite a while, and till he eventually either moved away or died or whatever happened to him. But I mean, you could walk outside and you'd have like peanuts in your pocket, and he'd climb up you and grab them, and then sit there and talk while he's eating. So it's kind of nice to have nature nearby. So anyways, that was the story of Patches, and I want to tell you a little bit about Blackjaw and our squirrels that got bloated on cheesecake. So I hope you'll come back and see me again. Next time we're going to go and read from Time Is Once More. And I really appreciate you watching these. I appreciate you if you'd spread the word out. The last one I did about Honey and Cleo seems to be a hit. So I'm really excited about that. I'd like to do more. If you tell me what you'd like, if you've read the books, tell me what stories you'd like me to read on here. If you have a book that you wrote and would like me to read on here, I'm more than happy to. All I ask is that you send me the book so I can show it off. So that's it for today. I appreciate you coming by. Look forward to seeing you on the next reading. And have a good day. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.